The fog rolled thick across Apex Airfield. At 11:47 p.m. Lena Hartman's heels clicked against the wet tarmac, her Burberry coat billowing behind her as she marched toward the illuminated hangar. At 28, she'd built Hartman Dynamics into a $3 billion aerospace empire, and tonight's emergency board meeting in New York couldn't wait. Inside the private hangar, her Airbus H-145 gleamed under industrial lights. The pilot, Marcus Chen, ran through his pre-flight checklist, while two security guards stood at attention. "Miss Hartman, we're ready for immediate departure," Marcus announced. Near the maintenance bay, Ethan Cole wiped grease from his hands, his night shift nearly complete. His 6-year-old son Oliver sat cross-legged on a workbench, crayons scattered around a drawing pad. The boy had insisted on coming tonight, something about bad dreams. Oliver's small voice suddenly cut through the hangar noise. "Daddy, that helicopter is wrong." Ethan glanced at his son's latest drawing. An aircraft engulfed in flames, falling toward dark water. His stomach tightened. Oliver had drawn things before things that later came true, like the morning 2 years ago when he'd sketched Mommy's car crumpled against a tree, 3 hours before the accident. "Buddy, it's just a picture," Ethan said. Though his voice wavered, Oliver slid off the bench and ran toward the helicopter, his small sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. "Wait, Oliver!" Ethan sprinted after him. The boy reached Lena just as she placed her hand on the aircraft door. "Miss, please don't get in. Someone put something bad inside. It's going to explode over the ocean." Lena turned, her expression a mixture of surprise and irritation. "Security, please remove this child." "I'm so sorry, Miss Hartman." Ethan grabbed Oliver's shoulder. His face flushed with embarrassment. "He's my son. I work the night maintenance shift." "Then control him," Lena said coldly. "I have a schedule." But Ethan's hand trembled as he pulled out his phone, showing a photo he'd taken earlier. "Ma'am, I need to tell you something. During my inspection tonight, I found a wire bundle that shouldn't be there. Near the fuel tank access panel, I reported it to my supervisor, but he said I was being paranoid, that it was just updated avionics wiring." Lena's eyes narrowed. "Show me." The head of security, a former Secret Service agent named Warren Ellis, stepped forward. "Miss Hartman, we should investigate this." Ethan led them to the helicopter's undercarriage. His flashlight beam found the panel. "There. See that conduit? It's routed wrong. It bypasses the standard fuel sensor array." Warren crouched down, his face hardening. He made a hand signal. Within seconds, 3 more guards surrounded the aircraft, hands on their weapons. "Everyone back, now." Warren's voice carried absolute authority. He radioed for the bomb squad, while carefully photographing the suspicious wiring. Lena stood frozen, her confidence cracking. Oliver tugged her sleeve gently. "My mommy died in a car that broke. Daddy says I saw it before it happened. I don't want you to die too." 12 minutes later, the bomb technician straightened up, his face pale beneath his helmet. "It's a sophisticated incendiary device. Pressure activated. Would have detonated at altitude, approximately 15 minutes after takeoff. The entire fuel system would have ignited. No survivors." The hangar fell silent, except for the distant wail of approaching police sirens. Lena's legs nearly gave out. Warren caught her elbow. She stared at Ethan and Oliver, these two strangers who'd just saved her life. And for the first time in years, Lena Hartman felt genuine fear. FBI Special Agent Diana Torres arrived at 1:15 a.m. with a team of forensic specialists. The hangar transformed into a crime scene, cordoned off with yellow tape while investigators swarmed the helicopter. Lena sat in her car, still parked outside, unable to process what had almost happened. Her assistant brought coffee. She couldn't drink. Through the windshield, she watched Ethan being questioned by agents. Oliver sleeping on a bench wrapped in Ethan's jacket. Agent Torres approached Lena's vehicle, tablet in hand. "Miss Hartman, we've traced the access logs. Someone entered this hangar at 3:42 a.m. yesterday using a security card that was deactivated 8 months ago. Whose card? Lena's voice came out hoarse. The card was originally issued to Adrian Locke. The name hit her like a physical blow. Adrian. Her ex-fiancé. The man she'd left 3 years ago after discovering his controlling, obsessive nature. The man who'd sent her dozens of messages saying she'd made a mistake, that they were meant to be together, that she'd regret leaving him. That's impossible, Lena whispered. He lives in London now. He has a restraining order. The restraining order expired 6 months ago. Miss Hartman, we found evidence he returned to San Francisco 2 weeks ago. He's been staying at the Fairmont under an alias. A black Mercedes pulled into the parking area. Mason Reed, Hartman Dynamics' chief financial officer, emerged looking disheveled despite his expensive suit. Lena, thank God you're safe. I just heard. Are you all right? Something in his timing felt wrong. It was nearly 2 a.m. How had he heard so quickly? Mason, why are you here? Lena asked carefully. Your security team sent an alert to the executive emergency contact list. His eyes darted to the FBI agents. This is unbelievable. Who would do this? Inside the hangar, Oliver had woken up. He'd found his crayons again. When Agent Torres brought his latest drawing to Lena, her blood ran cold. The sketch showed a man placing a small box beneath a helicopter. The figure wore a distinctive watch, a Patek Philippe with a blue face. Mason Reed wore that exact watch. Ethan appeared at Lena's car window. Miss Hartman, I need to tell you something about Oliver. After my wife died, he started drawing things before they happened. The morning of her accident, he drew her car wrapped around a tree. I thought it was just trauma, nightmares. But he drew it at breakfast. She died at noon. You're saying your son can see the future? I'm saying he sees things he shouldn't be able to see. The therapist called it intuitive processing of subconscious environmental cues. I call it a gift I don't understand. Ethan's eyes were pleading, but he's never been wrong. Not once. Agent Torres joined them. Miss Hartman, we're recommending immediate protective custody. Whoever orchestrated this has resources and determination. You're not safe in any of your known residences. Lena looked at Oliver's drawing again. At Mason's watch. At the FBI agents swarming her helicopter. At Ethan Cole, this stranger who'd risked his job to warn her. I have a private estate on an island in Napa Valley, she said slowly. It has military-grade security systems I designed myself. But, she turned to Ethan, I want you and your son to come with me. What? Miss Hartman, I can't. Oliver sees things no one else can see. I need him. I need both of you. Her voice broke slightly. Please. Oliver stepped forward, taking Lena's hand with complete trust. We'll keep you safe, Miss Lena. The ocean is calling you away from here. That's where you need to be. The FBI command center operated from a mobile unit outside the hangar. Inside, Lena sat across from Agent Torres, the walls lined with screens displaying security footage, financial records, and surveillance photos. Tell me about Adrian Locke, Torres said. Pen poised over her notepad, Lena's hands clenched in her lap. We met at a tech conference 5 years ago. He was charming. Successful. He ran a venture capital firm, specializing in aerospace investments. We got engaged after 8 months. She paused, remembering. Then things changed. Changed how? He needed to know where I was every moment. He installed tracking software on my phone. He'd show up unannounced at my office, my apartment, my gym. When I confronted him, he said it was because he loved me so much. Because he was afraid of losing me. Lena's voice hardened. When I tried to break up with him, he told me I'd regret it, that I belonged to him. That was 3 years ago. Torres slid a folder across the table. Adrian's been busy. After you obtained the restraining order, he relocated to London, but maintained financial ties here. He lost significant money in a failed investment deal 18 months ago. Then 6 months ago, he started liquidating assets. Liquidating for what? We don't know yet. But look at this. Torres pulled up a document. Mason Reed, your CFO. He and Adrian have been in regular contact. Phone records show 17 calls in the past month. And there's more. Mason recently purchased $3 million in put options on Hartman Dynamics stock. Lena felt sick. Put options were bets that stock prices would fall. Mason was betting against my company? If you died in that helicopter crash, your stock would have plummeted. Someone holding put options would have made a fortune. The door opened. Ethan entered with Oliver, who'd refused to leave Lena's side. The boy carried a new drawing. This one more detailed. It showed a helicopter, but also a car wrapped around a tree identical to his drawing from 2 years ago. Beneath both images, he'd drawn the same shadowy figure. Ethan's face had gone white. "Show them," he whispered to Oliver. Oliver pointed to the figure. "This is the bad man who broke Mommy's car and wants to break Miss Lena's helicopter." Agent Torres leaned forward. "Son, what makes you think the same person did both things?" "Because he has the same dark around him, like smoke. And he's wearing the same shoes in my head pictures." Torres looked at Ethan. "Your wife's accident. Tell me about it." "Sarah died 2 years ago. Single vehicle collision on Highway 1. The investigators ruled it brake failure, but I never believed it. Sarah was meticulous about car maintenance. The brake lines had corroded, but the car was only 3 years old." Ethan's voice cracked. The maintenance records showed her car had been serviced the week before at a shop called Pacific Auto Solutions. Torres began typing rapidly. Pacific Auto Solutions, owned by a subsidiary company, tracking the parent corporation. She stopped, her expression darkening. The parent company is Locke Ventures International. Adrian Locke's firm. The room seemed to tilt. Ethan grabbed the edge of the table. "You're saying Adrian killed my wife. I'm saying we need to investigate this connection immediately." Oliver suddenly gripped Lena's arm. His small face frightened. "Miss Lena, you can't stay in the city. The ocean is safe. The big house by the water, where nobody knows. That's where we have to go now." Lena's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You can't hide from what we are, Lena. We're destined." Her hands shook as she showed it to Torres. "We're leaving," Lena said firmly. "Tonight. The 3 of us." At 3:30 a.m., an armored SUV with tinted windows pulled away from Apex Airfield. Lena sat in back beside Oliver, who'd fallen asleep against her arm. Ethan rode beside Agent Warren Ellis, who drove with professional precision, constantly checking mirrors. "This safe house of yours," Warren said. "Tell me about the security." Lena's voice was steady now, back in her element discussing technology. "The island estate is 30 acres in Napa Valley. Accessible only by a private causeway with biometric gates. The house has a military-grade surveillance system I designed personally: thermal imaging, motion sensors, drone detection. The panic room is EMP shielded with independent power and communications." Ethan stared out the window at the dark landscape rushing past. "Why do you want us there?" "Oliver and me? Because your son sees things," Lena said quietly. "Things that saved my life. And because..." She looked down at Oliver's peaceful face. "Because I trust him. I haven't trusted anyone in 3 years. You don't even know us. I know you risked your job to warn me about something your supervisor dismissed. I know Oliver's gift. Whatever it is real. That's enough." 20 minutes into the drive, Warren's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his jaw tightened. "We've got a drone pacing us. 200 feet up. Thermal signature suggests commercial grade." "Lose it," Lena ordered. Warren took 3 quick turns through a residential area, then onto Highway 29 northbound. The drone fell behind, but didn't disappear completely. Oliver stirred awake, immediately alert. "Daddy, someone's following us in the sky." I know, buddy. It's okay. No. Oliver pressed his face to the window. There's another one ahead. They're trying to see where we're going. Warren radioed FBI headquarters, requesting drone interdiction. Within minutes, a police helicopter appeared, forcing the surveillance drones to retreat. The causeway to Lena's Island appeared at 5:15 a.m., just as dawn broke over the valley. The estate emerged from morning mist, like something from a dream, a modern architectural masterpiece of glass and steel, perched on cliffs overlooking a private lake. Ethan had never seen anything like it. The house seemed to float, its transparent walls offering views of water on three sides. Gardens cascaded down terraced levels. A greenhouse glowed with soft light. "This is where you live?" he asked, overwhelmed. "This is where I hide," Lena corrected softly. "Where I come when the world becomes too much." Oliver was already out of the car, spinning in circles on the driveway. "Daddy, look. There's a boat dock and a big glass room with plants. And Miss Lena, can I see the water?" For the first time since the hangar, Lena smiled. "After breakfast, I'll show you everything." Inside, the house was even more stunning. Ethan felt completely out of place in his grease-stained work clothes. The kitchen alone was larger than his entire apartment. We can't stay long," he stammered. "I have to work tomorrow. And Oliver has school. I've already arranged for you to take emergency leave," Lena said. "Paid. And I've contacted Oliver's school about remote learning accommodations. You'll both stay here until this is resolved. You can't just—" "I can, and I have." Her tone brooked no argument, but then softened. "Please, Ethan. I'm asking, not ordering. Stay." Their hands brushed as she handed him a cup of coffee. The contact sent an unexpected jolt through both of them. Outside, Oliver pressed his hands against the glass wall, watching the sunrise paint the lake in colors of gold and rose. "Look, Daddy. Look, Miss Lena. The water is happy we're here." In that moment, something shifted. The three of them, strangers bound by danger, began to feel like something else entirely. The first morning at the estate unfolded with surprising ease. Oliver discovered the greenhouse and spent 2 hours examining exotic plants, while Lena explained hydroponics and automated climate control. The boy absorbed everything with an intensity that reminded her of herself at that age. "Miss Lena, why do the computers talk to the plants?" Oliver asked, pointing to sensors embedded in soil. "They monitor moisture, nutrients, and pH levels. The plants tell the computers what they need, and the computers respond." "It's a conversation," Oliver nodded seriously. "Like how I see pictures in my head. And then they happen? The future talks to me?" Lena crouched to his level. "Maybe. I believe you have a gift, Oliver. A way of processing information the rest of us miss." Ethan watched from the doorway, his heart aching. Sarah would have loved seeing their son so engaged, so curious. He'd been so focused on survival these past 2 years, working double shifts, keeping Oliver fed and safe, that he'd forgotten how to simply let his son be a child. Lena caught his expression. "You okay?" This is a lot. Yesterday I was a night shift mechanic. Today I'm in a mansion worth more than I'll earn in 10 lifetimes, because my son draws pictures that predict the future and saved a billionaire from a bombing." "You don't like being here." "I don't know how to be here," Ethan admitted. "In your world, I don't fit." "My world is lonely," Lena said quietly. "I have money, success, power. But I eat dinner alone every night. I haven't had a real conversation with someone in months. You know what I did last Thursday? I ordered groceries online, worked until 2 a.m., and fell asleep at my desk. When I woke up, I couldn't remember the last time someone asked me if I was okay." Before Ethan could respond, Oliver called out, "Daddy! Miss Lena!" "I fixed the game." They found him in the virtual reality room, standing in front of a massive curved screen displaying an aerospace simulation. Somehow, he'd navigated past the password protection and identified a bug in the trajectory calculation code. Lena stared at the screen. That's a quantum physics simulation. I've been debugging for 3 months. How did you? The numbers felt wrong, Oliver said simply. So, I asked the computer to check the blue ones against the red ones. And it found the mistake. Ethan laughed, the sound rusty from disuse. He's done this before. Last month, he fixed my laptop by reorganizing the startup sequence. I have no idea how he knew what to do. That evening, Ethan insisted on cooking. Lena protested she had a private chef on call, but he was already examining the contents of her industrial-sized refrigerator. When's the last time you had a home-cooked meal? He asked. Define home-cooked. Made by human hands, not a restaurant. Real food. Lena thought about it. 3 years. My mother's house, before everything fell apart. Ethan made spaghetti carbonara, nothing fancy, but prepared with care. They ate at the breakfast bar rather than the formal dining room. Oliver between them, chattering about the plants and the computers and the boats he'd seen on the lake. Halfway through dinner, Lena realized she was smiling. Actually smiling. Not the practiced expression she used in board meetings. After Oliver went to bed, the 2 adults stood on the deck overlooking the water. Security lights dotted the perimeter, but the lake beyond was dark and peaceful. Thank you, Lena said. For staying, for making dinner. She gestured vaguely. For being normal. I'm not sure anything about this situation is normal. No. But you make it feel less impossible. Before either could say more, Oliver's voice called from inside. Daddy, Miss Lena. I had another picture in my dream. They rushed to his room. Oliver held out a new drawing, this one rendered in colored pencil during his afternoon quiet time. It showed 3 figures standing before the lake at sunset, but in the tree line behind them, a shadowy form lurked. Watching, Lena felt ice run down her spine. He's coming. Agent Torres called at 6:30 a.m. on day 3. Lena took the call in her private office, while Ethan made breakfast, and Oliver explored the boat dock with Warren supervising. We've finished analyzing Mason Reed's financial records, Torres said. It's worse than we thought. Lena's hand tightened on the phone. Tell me, over the past 18 months, Mason has received wire transfers totaling $2.7 million from a shell company registered in the Cayman Islands. That shell company is owned by Adrian Locke. In exchange, Mason has been feeding Adrian confidential information about Hartman Dynamics' upcoming products, merger negotiations, R&D developments. The betrayal cut deeper than Adrian's obsession. Mason had been with her company for 4 years. She'd promoted him to CFO over more experienced candidates because she believed in his vision. They'd worked late nights together, celebrated victories, weathered crises. There's more, Torres continued. We found emails between Mason and Adrian discussing a specific plan. If you died in the helicopter explosion, your stock would crater. You own 47% of the company. There's no succession plan, and investors would panic. Adrian had arranged bridge financing to buy controlling interest at the depressed price. Mason would be installed as CEO and Adrian as board chairman. They'd split the profits. They were going to buy my company with my death. Lena said flatly, Mason's been arrested. He's at FBI headquarters now. We're offering him a deal if he testifies against Adrian. After the call ended, Lena sat motionless, staring at the lake. The water that had seemed peaceful yesterday now felt like a barrier keeping her trapped. Ethan found her 20 minutes later. Hey. Torres called me too. I'm sorry about your CFO. I trusted him. Her voice sounded hollow. After Adrian, I swore I'd never let anyone close enough to hurt me again. Then I hired Mason, relied on him. And she couldn't finish. Ethan sat beside her. He didn't offer meaningless platitudes or try to minimize her pain. He simply sat, a quiet presence, until she continued. Do you ever wonder if you're the problem? If something in you attracts people who want to hurt you? Every day, Ethan said softly. After Sarah died, I wondered if I'd missed signs. If I could have prevented it somehow. Then I realized some people are just broken in ways that hurt others. It's not your fault Adrian is obsessed or that Mason is greedy. You didn't make them that way. Oliver appeared in the doorway, another drawing in hand. Lena braced herself. This sketch showed a man in glasses and an expensive suit standing beside a darker figure. The man in glasses wore Mason's distinctive Rolex Submariner. The man with the shiny watch was helping the bad man, Oliver said. But he's scared now. He didn't think anyone would catch him. Agent Torres sent photos from Mason's interrogation 2 hours later. The CFO had broken quickly, confirming everything. Adrian had approached him 18 months ago, exploiting Mason's gambling debts. The plan had evolved from corporate espionage to murder when Adrian became convinced that killing Lena was the only way to possess what he couldn't control. He kept saying you belonged to him, Torres reported. That if he couldn't have you, he'd take your company, your legacy, everything you built. Mason claims he never really believed Adrian would go through with the bombing. He thought it was just talk. Where is Adrian now? Lena asked. Unknown. But we're closing in. Mason gave us locations, contact numbers, aliases. It's only a matter of time. The call ended, but Lena knew the truth. Adrian wouldn't wait to be caught. He was coming. The revelation came 3 days later, buried in FBI forensic analysis. Agent Torres drove to the island personally to deliver the news, her expression grave. We traced the ownership of Pacific Auto Solutions back through 4 shell companies. The final owner is Locke Ventures International, Adrian's firm. Ethan stared at the documents spread across Lena's dining table. You're saying Adrian owned the shop that serviced Sarah's car? More than that. We pulled traffic camera footage from the week before your wife's accident. Adrian himself was at that auto shop. In the service bay where your wife's car was being maintained. The room tilted. Ethan gripped the table edge. Why? Why would he? We believe it was a test, Torres said quietly. Adrian had been tracking Lena for months, becoming increasingly obsessed. We found journals in his London apartment, hundreds of pages about Lena, about obstacles that needed to be removed, about proving his commitment. Your wife's death happened 3 months after Adrian first approached Mason Reed about the takeover plan. Lena felt sick. He killed an innocent woman as practice? To see if he could get away with it? We think he wanted to test his methods and assess how thoroughly accidents were investigated. Your wife's death was ruled accidental. That likely gave him confidence to move forward with the helicopter bombing, thinking it would be treated the same way. Ethan stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. He walked to the windows overlooking the lake, his shoulders shaking. Oliver appeared from the greenhouse, immediately sensing the tension. He went to his father, slipping his small hand into Ethan's larger one. Daddy, you're thinking about Mommy. Yeah, buddy, I am. The bad man hurt her because he wanted to hurt Miss Lena. But we're going to stop him. I can see it. Oliver pulled out his ever-present sketch pad, showing a new drawing, an airplane torn apart, with a shadowy figure standing in the darkness behind it, identical to his earlier helicopter sketch. Ethan turned to Torres, his voice deadly calm. You're going to catch him. Because if you don't, I will. Mr. Cole, he murdered my wife, he orphaned my son, and now he's trying to kill. Ethan looked at Lena. He's trying to kill someone else. He couldn't finish the sentence, but everyone in the room understood. Lena crossed to him, placing her hand on his arm. We'll find him. Together. That night, at 11:47 p.m., Lena's secure phone rang. The number was blocked, but she knew who it was before answering. Lena. Adrian's voice was smooth, cultured, completely calm. I know you're on the island. I know the mechanic and his brat are with you. Do you really think Warren Ellis and some FBI agents can keep me away? If you come here, they'll kill you. Or maybe I'll kill them. Maybe I'll kill the mechanic and his son right in front of you. So you understand what happens when you choose strangers over me. We were meant to be together, Lena. I built my entire life around us. And you threw it away. Ethan grabbed the phone. You come near my son. And you'll what, mechanic? You're nothing. A peasant playing in a princess's castle. But don't worry. You won't suffer long. The line went dead. Ethan's hands shook with rage and fear. Lena wrapped her arms around him, and he let himself be held. This moment of vulnerability more intimate than any kiss. He's not going to win, Lena whispered fiercely. I won't let him take anything else from you. From us. Oliver watched from the hallway, his young face solemn. He picked up his crayons again. The picture he drew showed not violence, but 3 people holding hands before sunrise, still standing after the darkness passed. The assault began at 2:17 a.m. on their 7th night at the estate. Every light in the house died simultaneously, not a power outage, but a complete system failure. Warren Ellis's voice crackled over the backup radio. EMP pulse detected. All electronic security is down. This is a coordinated attack. Initiating emergency protocols. Lena's panic room training kicked in instantly. She'd designed this scenario herself, practiced it dozens of times. But now, with real danger approaching and Oliver and Ethan depending on her, her hands shook as she grabbed the emergency pack. Oliver, Ethan, to me, now, they stumbled through darkness, following the glow of Lena's backup flashlight. Oliver didn't cry, didn't panic. Instead, he tugged his father's hand. Daddy, we need to go up, not down. The glass room on the 3rd floor. That's where we'll be safe. The panic room is in the basement, Lena said. No. Oliver's voice carried absolute certainty. The glass room. I can see it in my head. We have to go there now. Ethan trusted his son without hesitation. Show us. They climbed stairs in darkness, while Warren and his team secured the perimeter. Gunfire erupted somewhere outside brief, controlled bursts from the security team's weapons. The 3rd floor observatory was Lena's sanctuary. A dome of reinforced glass, offering 360-degree views of the lake and grounds. More importantly, it was her secondary panic room, a backup she'd never told anyone about except the installation crew. How did you know? Lena asked Oliver as she activated the manual locks. I could see us here. Safe. While the bad man looks everywhere else, through the glass, they watched flashlights moving through the gardens below. Adrian had brought help, mercenaries, professionals. The security team was outgunned. Lena accessed the emergency control panel hidden behind a bookshelf. Even without main power, the backup systems gave her limited control. She pulled up infrared cameras on a battery-powered tablet. 6 hostiles approaching the main house. 3 more at the boat dock. And there, entering through the basement, Adrian Locke himself. Moving with deadly purpose toward the primary panic room. He thinks we're downstairs, Lena breathed. But we're not, Oliver said calmly, because I saw the right way. Adrian's voice suddenly boomed through the house's intercom, powered by a portable generator. Lena, I know you're here. Your security team is competent, but I planned for this. Every contingency. Every possibility. You can't hide from destiny. Ethan pulled Oliver close, covering his ears. This isn't love, Lena said quietly, watching Adrian on camera systematically search rooms. This is obsession. Sickness. Come out, Lena. We can still fix this. We were perfect together. You just got confused. Let fear cloud your judgment. I forgive you for leaving me. I forgive you for the restraining order. Come back to me, and I'll even forgive you for these distractions. He gestured dismissively toward where he thought Ethan and Oliver might be hiding. On the tablet, Lena watched Adrian reach the basement panic room. He had explosive charges, sophisticated tools. He was going to breach it. Then Oliver spoke, his voice unnaturally calm. "Miss Lena, turn on the water in the hallways. All of it. And wait for him to climb the stairs. The sprinkler system? Yes. Make everything slippery. He's going to fall." Lena didn't question. She'd learned to trust this child's impossible knowledge. Her fingers flew across the emergency controls, overriding safety protocols, activating every sprinkler head in the mansion simultaneously. Below, Adrian discovered the empty panic room. His roar of rage echoed through the house. "Where are you?" He was heading for the stairs. Exactly as Oliver had predicted, water cascaded through the mansion's 3 stories, turning polished floors into skating rinks. Adrian's tactical boots had excellent grip, but even the best traction couldn't compensate for the deluge Lena had unleashed. From the observatory, they watched through cameras as Adrian reached the main staircase, starting his ascent toward the residential floors. 2 of his mercenaries followed. "When he reaches the landing between 2nd and 3rd floor, turn off the water," Oliver instructed, his young voice carrying strange authority. "He'll feel safe for 3 seconds. Then turn it back on. That's when he'll fall." Lena's finger hovered over the control. "How do you know?" "I just do." Adrian climbed steadily, weapon drawn, using the banister for support. The mercenaries behind him moved with professional caution. When Adrian reached the 2nd floor landing, Lena cut the sprinklers. Adrian paused, water dripping from his expensive tactical gear. "Clever, Lena. But not clever enough. I know this house. I've studied the blueprints for months. There's only one place you could be hiding with that worthless mechanic and his brat." The observatory. He started climbing again, faster now, confident. "Now," Oliver whispered. Lena reactivated every sprinkler at maximum pressure. The sudden surge of water hit Adrian mid-step. His boot slipped. For a moment he seemed suspended, arms windmilling, trying to regain balance. Then he fell. Adrian tumbled backward down 15 marble stairs, his gun clattering away. One of the mercenaries lunged to catch him but slipped as well, both men crashing into the 2nd mercenary. All 3 went down in a tangle of limbs and water and expensive tactical gear. Ethan was already moving. "Stay here. Lock the door behind me." "Ethan, no." But he was gone, using the service stairs to descend. Years of physical labor had made him strong, and rage gave him focus. He reached the landing where Adrian lay dazed, blood streaming from a gash on his forehead. The gun had slid near the wall. Ethan grabbed it, pointing it at Adrian with shaking hands. "For Sarah," Ethan said. "You killed my wife." Adrian laughed, the sound slightly hysterical. "The brunette with the Honda? She was nobody. Practice. But you're welcome to join her." Despite his injury, Adrian was fast. He swept Ethan's legs, and they crashed together into the standing water. The gun fired, the bullet going wide, shattering a window. They fought with desperate brutality. Adrian had training, but Ethan had rage and the strength that came from loading cargo planes and maintaining aircraft for 12 years. Every thought of Sarah, every image of Oliver crying himself to sleep, fueled his fists. Warren and his team burst through the front door. "FBI, hands where I can see them." Adrian tried to reach for a backup weapon. Ethan slammed his hand down on Adrian's wrist, hearing bones crack. "It's over," Ethan gasped. Adrian's eyes found the security cameras, knowing Lena was watching. "This changes nothing. You can't escape what we are. I'll find you again. I'll always find you." "No." Lena's voice came through the intercom. "You won't, because you're done, finished, and I'm not afraid of you anymore." The FBI agents pulled Ethan off Adrian, cuffing both the mercenaries and Adrian himself. Paramedics arrived for Adrian's injuries: broken wrist, concussion, fractured ribs from the fall. In the observatory, Oliver released a breath he'd been holding. "It's okay now, Miss Lena. The pictures in my head stopped being scary. We're safe now." Lena collapsed to her knees, the adrenaline finally draining away. Oliver wrapped his small arms around her neck. "You were so brave." he whispered. Just like Daddy. Just like me. We're all brave together. When Ethan returned, soaking wet and bruised, Lena ran to him. They held each other while dawn broke over the lake, the sunrise painting the water in shades of gold and promise. The courtroom was packed for the sentencing. Adrian Locke stood before the judge, his expensive suit unable to hide the broken man beneath. The evidence had been overwhelming: the bomb, the financial conspiracy, Sarah Cole's murder, attempted murder of Lena Hartman. Life imprisonment without possibility of parole, Judge Catherine Morrison pronounced. You orchestrated the death of an innocent woman and attempted to murder a prominent business leader for personal and financial gain. You represent a continued danger to society. Adrian's eyes found Lena in the gallery. She met his gaze without flinching, Ethan's hand firm in hers. Adrian tried to speak, but U.S. Marshals led him away before he could form words. Mason Reed had received 18 years in a separate trial, his cooperation earning him a reduced sentence. Lena hadn't attended his proceedings. Some betrayals cut too deep for forgiveness. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed, but Lena's new security chief, Warren, who'd resigned from federal service to run her personal protection, permanently cleared a path to the waiting car. That evening, they returned to the island estate. Oliver ran ahead, excited to show them the robotics project he'd been building with Lena's engineering team. At 8 years old now, he'd been accepted into a prestigious STEM academy that recognized his unusual gifts. The past 6 months had transformed all their lives. Lena had restructured Hartman Dynamics with new leadership, implementing oversight systems to prevent another Mason Reed. More significantly, she'd stepped back from day-to-day operations, appointing a CEO she trusted while remaining board chair. Ethan now directed the company's aviation safety division, his practical experience and intuitive understanding of aircraft systems making him invaluable. He'd completed online certification programs, Lena mentoring him through the technical material he'd missed by not attending college. But the business changes paled beside the personal ones. They'd moved slowly, carefully. Ethan had kept his apartment in the city for 3 months, before finally admitting he hadn't slept there in weeks. Oliver had transitioned seamlessly, treating the estate as home from day one. His room filling with books, robots, and drawings that now predicted mundane things like weather and surprise visits from friends. He's processing the world differently now, his therapist explained. The trauma of losing his mother created a hypervigilance that manifested as predictive anxiety. But in a stable, loving environment, his gift is becoming less about survival and more about curiosity. Tonight, the lake reflected stars and a perfect crescent moon. Lena stood on the deck where she'd once stood alone, but now Ethan approached from behind, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Penny, for your thoughts?" he murmured, just remembering the night Oliver first saved my life, remembering how lost I felt. How certain I was that I'd spend my life alone because trusting anyone was too dangerous. And now I know that being alone was the most dangerous thing I could do. Ethan turned her to face him, moonlight illuminating his features. "Lena Hartman, you've given me and Oliver a life I never dreamed possible. You've honored Sarah's memory by loving her son. You've made me believe in second chances." He knelt, producing a small box. "Marry me. Make this family official." Lena's breath caught. Before she could answer, Oliver burst onto the deck. "Say yes. Say yes." I drew a picture of the wedding already. He thrust out his latest sketch, 3 figures in formal wear, standing before an officiant with the lake behind them, the scene radiating joy. Lena laughed through tears. "You knew before?" he asked. "I drew it last week. Daddy asked me to keep it secret." She pulled both of them close, this man who'd saved her by risking everything, and this child who'd saved them all with his impossible gift. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes to everything. Yes to this family. Yes to this life." Oliver produced a final drawing, one he'd made that very morning. It showed 3 figures holding hands before the sunrise, standing where darkness had once been. At the bottom, in his careful child's handwriting, "Home, The engagement party 3 weeks later brought together an unlikely group FBI agents who'd protected them. Hartman Dynamics engineers who'd become friends. Oliver's teachers who marveled at his growing abilities. Warren Ellis gave a toast about the night that had brought them all together, when a 6-year-old boy had been brave enough to warn a billionaire about danger no one else could see. Ethan watched his son healthy, happy, thriving, and felt Sarah's presence like a warm hand on his shoulder. She would have loved Lena, loved this life they were building. Lena stood at the center of her home, no longer a refuge from the world but a gathering place for the people she loved. The company she'd built still mattered, but it was no longer everything. She'd learned the difference between success and fulfillment, between being powerful and being whole. Oliver tugged her hand. "Miss Lena? Mom?" The word still felt new in his mouth, wonderful and strange. "Can I show everyone my new drawing?" "Of course, sweetheart." He unveiled his latest masterpiece, their family 5 years in the future, 2 more children playing in the lake, all of them laughing in golden afternoon light. "Is that what you see?" Lena asked gently. "Is that our future?" Oliver studied his drawing seriously. "I see lots of futures, but this is the best one. The one where everyone gets to be happy." Ethan joined them, pulling both into an embrace. Outside, the sun set over the lake where this journey had unfolded. The water that had witnessed terror and triumph, darkness and hope. To new beginnings, someone toasted. To family, Ethan added. To seeing clearly, Lena finished, looking at Oliver with profound gratitude. The boy who'd warned a billionaire had given them all something more valuable than fortune or power. He'd given them the ability to trust again, to love again, to believe that even after betrayal and loss, it was possible to build something beautiful. That night, after guests departed and Oliver slept peacefully, Lena and Ethan stood once more on their deck, the place where so many crucial conversations had unfolded. "Do you ever think about that night?" Lena asked. "What would have happened if Oliver hadn't insisted on coming to the hangar with you?" "Every day," Ethan admitted. "I think about how close I came to dismissing his warnings because I was embarrassed. How close you came to getting on that helicopter." "Fata?" Lena wondered. Or just the courage of a 6-year-old boy who trusted his instincts and refused to be silent. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the water reflect the moon. No longer running from the past or fearing the future. Just being together in the present moment. Inside, Oliver's latest drawing lay on the kitchen counter, 3 figures standing on a hill, arms raised toward the sky, celebrating something wonderful just beyond the frame. Whatever came next, they would face it as they'd faced everything since that night at Apex Airfield, together, trusting in love, guided by an extraordinary child who'd taught 2 broken adults how to see clearly again. The water was calm, the stars were bright. And in a house that had been a fortress, a family was finally completely home.